He was born into a rich family, creates plans in a cave, trains young men to fight his battles, and he has a personal code that he stands by. All jokes aside, the Nolan Trilogy is a film series that basically revitalized the superhero genre in cinema and basically overshadowed all the previous live-action Batmans. Thank God. But there's a dimension of the movies that I haven't really seen discussed in the mainstream, or even at all. It seems that every villain in the Nolan Trilogy represents major American events and figures, along with the negative dynamics of our red, white, and blue empire. I mean, Bane leads a revolution where the people of Gotham judge the elites, and he also bankrupts a billionaire, but we'll get to that later. But for now, make sure your bat nipples are on your suit, and your questionable DC shippings are ready as we dive into the politics of the Nolan Trilogy. Now, before I get actually for the following segment, I will be referring to the trilogy's version of Ra's and not his comic/canon origins and characterization. But in an interview with Screenwriting Magazine, David Goyer, who is a co-writer of the entire trilogy, claimed, "We modeled him after Osama bin Laden. He's not crazy in the way that all the other Batman villains are. He's not bent on revenge, he's actually trying to heal the world. He's just doing it by very draconian means," which, I still think Batman is Osama bin Laden. Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows believe that Gotham needs to be completely destroyed because it's past the point of reform, which, besides all the civilian deaths and terrorism, is pretty logical considering some runs literally claim that Gotham houses a portal to hell, and it's also just inherently cursed. I mean, it is in New Jersey. It's actually very interesting how Ra's al Ghul's character and motivations mirror bin Laden's hatred of American imperialism and their presence in the Middle East. They are both figures who run organizations bent on the destruction of what they see as corrupt and evil societies. I mean, Ra's death scene even involves a transportation vehicle crashing into a residential urban area, and his entire plan was to use it to spread terror, aka Scarecrow's fear gas. As a side note, I wonder if this was the reason why Liam Neeson was cast for the role. It might have been too controversial to have one of your co-writers saying that you based the character off of bin Laden, and then having someone who's Arab, Romani, or, the various roots of Ra's be portrayed. However, Ra's isn't the key part of this analysis. The Nolan Trilogy subsequently builds on the matter of terrorism, the war on terror, and the after effects of it. And The Dark Knight has no shortage of commentary on it. Heath Ledger's spin on the Joker is iconic for a reason, point blank period. His mannerisms, ability to control the room, and all of his plans were written and performed perfectly. However, a major component of his Joker is that he acts as the other side of the coin of Ra's al Ghul. David Goyer continues his streak of not having the Nolan Trilogy's villains be as crazy as the other Batman villains are and not bent on revenge. The Dark Knight Rises kind of ruins the streak of the latter, but we'll get to that. For now, let's discuss The Dark Knight. Joker is a force of chaos with no clear goal except to dissolve the institutions of Gotham into chaos and demoralize the populace into not believing that justice and hope is incorruptible in the world, or specifically in Gotham. He wants to show people that the state is capable of corruption and that Batman, as a vigilante, will kill whoever he wants if he is pushed to the brink because he has all the resources in the world to do so. In other words, he wants to watch the world burn and to expose human nature. Outside of that surface level assessment of Joker's terrorism, there's a deeper layer to it. Former US President Obama actually used the Dark Knight to assess the war on terror, more specifically ISIS. Advisors recall that Obama would cite a pivotal moment in The Dark Knight to help explain not only how he understood the role of ISIS, but how he understood the larger ecosystem in which it grew. There's a scene in the beginning in which the gang leaders of Gotham are meeting. These are men who had the city divided up. They were thugs, but there was a kind of order. Everyone had his turf, and then the Joker comes in and lights the whole city on fire. I don't know why I got southern, sorry. President Obama would continue saying ISIS is the Joker. It has the capacity to set the whole region on fire. That's why we have to fight it. Another element of Joker's characterization is a bit of a stretch, but there's a good amount to back it up. A popular fan theory is that Heath Ledger's Joker is an Iraq veteran of Special Forces or the Marines, who eventually just snapped one day. In the infamous "everybody loses their mind" speech, Joker says this:
"Tomorrow I tell the press that like a gangbanger will get shot, or a truckload of soldiers will be blowing up. Nobody panics."
On the surface, this seems like a random example that's just relevant due to the still ongoing war on terror in real life, but with the co-writer's previous comments, it feels more relevant than just commentary on current events. Other points such as Joker's combat experience, His ability to perfectly do the rifle drill in the police parade scene, and his overall hatred for the government and authority fit into this theory. Furthermore, another damning parallel is Batman using desperate and invasive means to catch the Joker. In his fight to track down Joker, Batman, with the help of Lucius Fox, taps into a large surveillance network using the phones of Gotham citizens. This is eerily similar to the post-9/11 Patriot Act, which bolstered civilian surveillance and breaches of privacy and due process. Batman and Dent even do torture interrogations and beat Joker after his capture. Surely this trilogy was just about edgy Joker, right? In the end, even though all of Joker's plans didn't succeed, we as the audience see the level of corruption and brutality he exposed, in his own sociopathic way. Speaking of good endings and allegories, let's talk about the opposite. The Dark Knight Rises, the often criticized final installment in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, shits the bed when it comes to commentary. After the events of the last movie, Joker's locked away, but the Dent Act increases police power with stricter sentencing and higher bails for anyone accused of aiding organized crime. It's stated that crime significantly dropped, but in most Batman iterations, it's heavily implied that most street-level criminals do it to get by. For a trilogy that literally began with someone questioning why Batman gets to fight crime and beat up whoever he sees as criminal, but they can't.
What gives you the right? What's the difference between you and me?
This seems like a sort of a weird thing to frame positively. Yeah, no similarities to just, locking up anybody on accusations of aiding criminals. Bane even calls this out when he exposes that the entire reason that the Dent Act happened was based on the lie of Harvey Dent's character.
You have been supplied with a false idol to stop you tearing down this corrupt city. Let me tell you the truth about Harvey Dent.
Now, before I get comments, let me say that in the Batman universe, not every thug is working for the Joker to pay for his son's chemo. Most of them probably deserve to be locked up. But when the trilogy so far has been critical of authoritarianism and breaches of liberty in order to fight crime and terror, this seems like a weird way to address it. At its heart, The Dark Knight Rises is a commentary on power and rebellion, and one of its most striking parallels is with the Occupy Wall Street movement and historical revolution. In 2011, thousands of protesters flooded New York's Zuccotti Park and other cities, demanding an end to economic inequality and corporate greed. They railed against the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, the so-called 1%, and called for a redistribution of power. Nolan's Gotham, much like the Gotham in Phillips' Joker, is a city dealing with the same tension. A metropolis where wealth divides its citizens, where the criminal elites live in penthouses and the poor suffer in silence. When Bane, the film's antagonist, takes control of Gotham, he speaks of liberation from the corrupt, the wealthy, and the powerful. In the streets, ordinary citizens rise up, looting mansions and dragging the rich from their homes. He literally attacks the Gotham Stock Exchange, bankrupts a billionaire, does a prison break, and establishes tribunals. Regardless of your opinions on leftist thought or class wars, they genuinely were cooking with a good villain. But regardless of my personal politics, my issue with The Dark Knight Rises isn't whether it's a critique on class wars or leftist thought. It's more so the handling of it compared to the other two movies in the trilogy. You have these great first two movies that focus on understandable and sympathetic villains, and then when you get probably the smartest and strongest villain so far with understandable goals, you have him decide to nuke Gotham with an orphaned Middle Eastern girl who is revealed to be the daughter of your Osama bin Laden parallel. However, when asked about these portrayals and similarities, Nolan stated, "It's just telling a story." If you're saying, have you made a film that's supposed to be criticizing the Occupy Wall Street movement? Well, obviously that's not true. If the populist movement is manipulated by somebody who is evil, then surely it's a criticism of the evil person. He also said the films genuinely aren't intended to be political. You don't want to alienate people, you want to create a universal story. Which is genuinely a wild thing to say about your trilogy after your co-writer's statements and all the obvious political commentary and philosophies. It's not like I'm stretching that far for this entire video. They literally included the Patriot Act in The Dark Knight. In my opinion, this just feels like a lot of backtracking after the bad reception that the movie got. The Talia al Ghul twist also undercuts any serious critique of how uprisings get twisted or bastardized. The film misses an opportunity to explore the legitimate grievances behind revolutionary movements by neatly dismissing the political tension it had built up in favor of a more conventional, good guy save the day narrative. Referring back to the war on terror motives, it would have been a great opportunity to just leave out Talia al Ghul and have an Iron Man-like subplot where Wayne Enterprises funded weapons and missiles used to bomb Bane's home village. That would have been a way better way to incorporate the whole Middle Eastern prison, and it would have led to a discussion on imperialism and the nuances of what creates terrorists, similar to the main question of why Joker does what he does. But nope, we get a half-assed plot based on Nolan's quote of, "If the populist movement is manipulated by somebody who is evil, then it's a criticism of the evil person." You could also say the conditions the evil person is exploiting are problematic and should be addressed. Yeah, Nolan, but in The Dark Knight Rises, how did you address it? What genuine critique was there? Evil people do evil things? The ending lacks the philosophical weight of the trilogy's previous conclusions. In Batman Begins, we deal with issues of vigilantism and who has the right to do it, reform versus starting new, political terror, street crime, etc. In The Dark Knight, the moral ambiguity of Batman's decision to take the fall for Harvey Dent's crimes and the pursuit of Joker speaks to real-world dilemmas surrounding the war on terror, along with the thin line between security and liberty, the justifications for state power, and the sacrifices made in the name of the greater good. In contrast, The Dark Knight Rises offers a more conventional, almost pro-authoritarian resolution. Batman's return to heroism is framed as a simple act of self-sacrifice, but the political themes the film had been building, class struggle, the manipulation of the masses, the abuse of power, are barely resolved. So what happens after Bane and Talia die? Is the property seized and the revolution given back? Does the Dent Act get expanded even further, leading to more police? The film retreats from addressing the systemic issues it introduced, relying instead on a hero to reset the status quo, the opposite of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Also, making Robin a grown-ass cop and having Batman pass the mantle down to him versus the traditional stories of Robins being orphans with no options was a choice, I guess? I mean, we literally have 3 movies kind of telling us how far Gotham cops will go and how they kind of abuse their power, and then you just like have a grown-ass man randomly be like Robin / the next Batman. I don't know. Also unrelated to politics, the Catwoman romance ending, I wasn't a big fan of it. But anyways, in conclusion, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Trilogy stands as one of the most influential and complex superhero narratives in modern cinema, not only for its revitalization of the genre, but also for its rich political undertones. Each villain represents real-world dynamics tied to terrorism, the military-industrial complex, and class struggle, mirroring America's post-9/11 anxieties, the consequence of the war on terror, and economic unrest. I think the phantom reason for why The Dark Knight Rises was so criticized wasn't only because of the bad writing, but also because it lacked the political boldness and interesting dilemmas and commentary the previous ones had. Dark Knight stands above the other two due to sticking its landing so effectively with its writing, themes, and characters. Through these characters, the trilogy delves into the issues of fear, chaos, corruption, and societal decay, using Gotham as a metaphor for the broader state of the American empire. If you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, comment. Copying the link does a lot for the video and the algorithm, and I have more on the way, so stay tuned. I kind of make a bit of everything, so thank you for watching and supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.